Yes, guys, it's Suki from BTS TV, Beyond the Stage, fueled by Explosive Ape and Transform Now. Today, got a very special guest. Let me give him the proper introduction. Hopefully, it'll be the best introduction he's ever heard. In 2014, he got his pro card at the age 21, which was the youngest IB pro card back then at the NPC Nationals. He came ninth in his first Olympia 2016. We fast forward to some of the bigger accolades. 2020 was a big year, second in the Olympia, second in the Arnolds. That then followed by 2021, second of Olympia again, but this is when things really ramped up. First place in the Arnolds 2021, first place in 2022. He's back on stage this year. Man, it's the one and only, the art of posing, Terrence Ruffin. Terrence, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing great. Yeah, it's pretty cool to hear all that stuff over the past. Oh man, almost 11 years. Yeah, but I'm good.
2014, mate. 2014, that long ago, when you got your pro card in the lightweight division, I believe, at the age of 21.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny enough, man. There was another guy that kind of outshined me, like when that was going on. Dominic Cardone. He's a great guy, and he's a coach now. But he also turned pro at 21, but he was a heavyweight, and yeah, he almost won the whole show. You know, that year. I can't remember who won it all, but Alexi Rolon and Michael Lockett took second to him in the supers. But yeah, it was a good year.
Well, look, first place I want to start, with Beyond the Stage, the big thing for us we focus on is basically the mentality, the mindset you've created beyond the stage, beyond the lights, beyond what people see on social media, which of course is somebody performing at his best on stage. I really want to ask this question here. The Air Force is something that is renowned with yourself. You got a long history with the Air Force before bodybuilding. I really want to understand what type of impact did the Air Force have in molding your mindset before you made a transition into bodybuilding?
Oh yeah. So yeah, from 2011 to 2017, I served in the U.S. Air Force. Um, During that time, I competed. I got my pro card in 2014, and uh, pretty much did two Olympias while serving. 2017, I got out maybe I can't remember now, 2 to 4 weeks before the show, and yeah, I think during that time in the military, it just taught me a lot about discipline. Uh, I even tried out for special forces that spent the year going through that pipeline, and that was probably a huge factor in making just prep in a way seem easier to me. Once you do a lot of things that operators do, eating isn't quite as hard. Getting early wasn't a problem at all. To do cardio and whatnot, I did that every day. No matter what, uh, whether I was bodybuilding or not. So a lot of the things that a bodybuilder requires to be at the top, I was already doing in the military: the cardio, the training, hard work, the eating, all of it.
So you talk about discipline there as well. For me, something that's very important with any bodybuilder, with anybody, whatever level, amateur or pro, is the environment that you create for yourself to allow yourself to progress through the ranks, to develop your skill set and compete at the highest level. Clearly, that's something that you probably learned within the Air Force. But talk to me about how important the environment is for yourself that you've created to be competitive at the highest level.
Yeah, your environment is very important. Um, a lot of times in life when we're trying to reach a certain thing, it's the people you have around you and the environment you set up. Like what things you have in your household and what type of content you watch or whatever it may be. The things that you allow into your life has a huge effect on you. And trying to become the best at anything, you kind of have to limit uh, the things and the people that have access to you. So for me, Obviously, like it's a lot easier when you're younger and you live alone too. As you get older, things can become a little bit harder. But just not just surrounding myself with people with the same goal was a huge thing. All my friends were bodybuilders, and they were all actually older than me. By at least like 7 to 10 years. So not only did I have people living the lifestyle, being in the places where I wanted to be with the physiques I wanted to have, they also had a lot more wisdom than me, which helped me, tremendously. I think with my career and being able to turn pro as young as I did, it was because I leaned on those guys to avoid all the mistakes and the pitfalls they had experienced themselves.
That's interesting point you mentioned there, because I've asked people in the past about the environment, and you're one of the first ones to mention about having people who've been there, done it, and take their wisdom in, learn from their experiences, learn from those who've been there before. So that sounds like that's something that is very important to have in your circle to allow you to keep progression.
Definitely, yeah. It can at times be a detriment, but you need some discernment. Like obviously, learning from those guys, especially when I knew zero. Nothing about bodybuilding was important, but sometimes it can hold you back a bit with like old ideas and whatnot. You have to kind of know who to ask and when to ask, which can be difficult too.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Well, look, one thing I think also with an environment that sometimes can challenge people and make tough decisions is when maybe they have to remove something that is a negative. And that could be a very difficult moment for that individual to choose to make a decision to remove something like that. Do you have an example maybe in the past where you've had to remove something that was a negative that was holding you back?
Well, I can say I don't know if it wasn't a negative, but just me leaving the military was a big thing. Once I left the military and was able to put my all into bodybuilding, that's when I started to do a lot better. You talk about 2020 being the breakout year, but that started at the very end of 2019 with the Niagara Pro Fall show and Niagara Falls Pro show. And that kind of happened after like a year and a half absence from the military. So that was one thing in particular, just being able to fully focus and commit to something. There are some really extraordinary people that can do a lot of things all at the same time, and I envy them. But for most people to be truly your best at something, you have to put your all into it.
It's interesting you mentioned about that was a big decision to leave the Air Force, because I had an interview with Angelica Teixeira, and she mentioned that she made the decision to leave her nursing job role to go full time in bodybuilding, but she believed that she can go all the way. She can go all the way in Olympia and win the title. Did that play on your mind when making that decision to leave the Air Force, believing that, you know what, I've got the ability to go all the way, but to go all the way, I need to take this risk?
Yeah, yeah, that was definitely the main thing. The big thing was like I would have been open to stay, but it got to a certain point where every day off, like holiday I had, was spent with like doing bodybuilding events. Whereas it got to a point where I didn't have time to see my family or even just time to actually have off because competing at a bodybuilding show isn't like a vacation. So those were some of the things that crossed my mind. Uh, it definitely was a bit scary, but my partner at the time, she just gave me a lot of confidence into to do it. She's like, I think the military is holding you back from being at your best, and I think you should go for it. And with her support, it kind of happened. Yeah.
I guess really the Air Force has played enough of a role in regards to instilling discipline, hard work, dedication. You've taken as you can go as far as you can go while being in the Air Force, and that's molded your mindset to go into the bodybuilding world and take it as far as you can go. Grab the ball and run as far as you can go. I want to touch on this then. Look, let's go into now into bodybuilding. I've always wondered where did your love of the art of posing come from?
I'm just an artist in general before bodybuilding. I grew up drawing. I grew up painting. Was gonna go to art school, but decided not to. So this is just another way for me to be creative. Now I don't draw so much or at all, really. So the majority of my, I guess, creativity is put into like posing and photography.
So let's go back to posing then. So who were those inspirations in the past, or even though in the present, that maybe you've took inspiration from those who also show the great art of posing on stage from either the past or the present?
Well, the first guy I ever saw, I remember going to getting ready for my first bodybuilding show, and my coach at the time, uh, his name was Joe Blatz and or John Blatz, and he was a top national level competitor, and he was telling me like, this is how you do this is how you do that for your routine, and basically it was the basic bodybuilding routine. You hit a front double here, you walk to the other side of the stage, you do a side chest, you walk to the other side, you hit the most muscular, and I was like, okay, but something in me said, I think this can be a little bit better. So I went online and I found Kai Green, and I started to see his routines, and I was like, oh my God, this is what you can do on stage. And so that was literally the first instance where I saw like, okay, I can be creative. This is really cool. Before that, I had no idea that you could do anything like that. Um, After I found Kai Green, I started to do a little bit more research because I'm a big history buff as well. So I found guys like Francis Benfato, Muhammad Makawi, Ed Courtney, Frank Zane, Bob Paris, and my personal favorite, Lee Labrada. And I started to study those guys. Yeah.
Wiley Labrada, your personal favorite?
Lee, I think that's tough to put into words. One, his routines were in my opinion, the best choreographed. I've seen like a lot of poses that came after him. Like there's good poses after him, like in the '90s and early 2000s. But it seems to me a lot of those guys, the routines were freestyled. And if you get once you get to a certain level, like freestyle, a person can freestyle a routine and it can definitely be good. But in my opinion, it can't really be great because there's certain things you have to do with the music. You have to like hit certain poses on beat and do certain things when the music hits a crescendo or drops. And with Lee, you notice all those things in his routines. You can tell that every single movement was choreographed to a point in the song and well thought out. And I really really like that. And yeah, even this my favorite one is the one I can't remember the show, but it's based on like a bullfighter's routine, and he actually went to Spain to learn from a bullfighter in order to cooperate those things into his routine. And I've never seen that level of thought put into anything, and anything in my life.
I'm literally made a note of that to try and find that routine from Lila Brada of the bullfighter routine. I'm going to look into that because you've actually jumped into my next question because you mentioned about a lot of people freestyle it. But whenever I look at your posing, and I'm sure everyone would agree, there seems to be like this. And I always see it as like a story to it. You have a start, there's a middle and ending. But for you, what is the process when you are creating a routine? Because clearly there looks like there's been a lot more thought in regards to maybe some inspiration behind the routine that you are about to perform. So really keen to understand the process that you go through to create that routine.
Yeah, I do my best to tell a story for sure. That comes with choosing the appropriate songs. And sometimes it has to do with like something going on in my life, like the my second Arnold win. I got to pose with Lee, so I did a '80s I did a remix to an '80s song, and I incorporated some of his old poses, like the one where he would do like the arches pose, and would spin, do a 360. So sometimes it's stuff like that. I've done routines for uh, Tim Gardner and I forget his name. But he used to be a biker. He runs a lot of shows in Florida, but uh, they're like really devout Christians. So I did a gospel song by Kanye for one of their shows. Even the Olympia recently, um, Hope. If you listen to the words in that song, it's a lot. Personally, I felt like it was a lot going on with me. I just hit 30. He talks about the struggles in his life, and so a lot of it has to do with kind of how I'm feeling or what's going on. It has a meaning, but choosing the song as well, I think it has to be interesting for the crowd, and I have to feel it. If I don't feel it, the crowd's not going to feel it. And there's certain things that I try to find with the song where it varies in tone a bit, where I can do some slow things, some fast things, to really keep the crowd engaged. Um, yeah, yeah.
So you mentioned all these factors in regards to sometimes it's about a place of where you are in life. So how far in advance before the show do you start planning the meaning of your routine, with the inspiration, the motivation, the music choice? How far in advance do you start planning that?
I would say 3 to 4. I mean, it depends. Anywhere from like 2 months to 4 months. But sometimes it gets really hard to find a song. Um, for what song was that? I think it was Hope. I found 2 weeks before the Olympia because I was just struggling really hard. Same with Blinding Lights. I found that one maybe a month before. I had a different song in mind. I was practicing it. Wasn't working out, and then I heard Blinding Lights, and I was like, "This is the song," and it became a lot easier, to choreograph. Um, so if I can really feel a song, I can really bang something out pretty quickly. If I kind of like the song, then I'm like, it may take me a little longer to find the right poses and the right stuff to fit the tone.
You say when if you find the right song, you could bang something out very quickly. Is that a skill that's just natural to yourself being an artist, or does that come from hours and hours of practice from different shows? How are you able to get a routine out so quickly from hearing a song that you resonate with?
Yeah, it's practice. I mean, obviously, I have a talent for it, I think. But I mean, if people want to see my first routine, it's right there on my YouTube in the routines playlist. It was creative. It wasn't well executed. So I've had the creativity. It took me what 2013 was my first show, so it took me maybe 5 years to kind of build up the actual skill to present it properly. 2018 is when I did the Survivor routine, and that was like my first really good routine. But after that, I started getting a lot of posing classes, and that's when I really was able to create songs a lot faster because I was doing routines like every single day, several times a day for like months.
The Survivor routine you just mentioned, I was going to lead on to that. So, what was the
Mm-hmm.
story behind that? Was there a moment in your life that inspired that routine? Because that was a one that just went mental, and I know he did it again, but
Mm-hmm.
that is just now timeless. That's one of those that remain in the blueprint in regards to creating a opposing routine. So, what was the story with that?
It wasn't real. I mean, I don't know, man. That was 2018. That was just the first. It just kind of came together. My old coach Matt was a huge Beyonce fan, and he wanted me to do a song to Beyonce, and that was the closest I can get to a full on Beyonce song. You know, um, but that one was before. That was when I really started to kind of figure things out. So it wasn't to the point where something was going on or anything like that that I needed to be a survivor for. Just like, oh man, I really like the way this sounds. And I don't know, it just all came together. But I will say that when I look at my routines from that point on, it's one of the most simple in terms of like I can remember that one and it give me like a couple hours and I'll have that one memorized again. Some of the newer ones would take me like weeks to get down properly. Like the one I did in for Lee. But with that one, it took me maybe like 3-ish months to make. Which, looking at it, it's not. It's, in my opinion, it's a really simple routine. It's maybe like 15, 20 poses total. Um, it's just you kind of. I just that's when everything kind of unlocked. You know.
Man, there's me thinking there's gonna be some epic story behind 2018 Survivor, but instead, is the story
Uh,
is yeah, my coach just like Beyonce.
that yeah, I found the song. I found this band, and like yeah, I mean that's when like my creativity and my experience kind of became one. You know, I think every time before that, like a lot of it was mimicking a lot of people like Kai, Lee, and that's when I that was a routine where I finally became my own person in terms of a poser.
So let's just go into there more about let's provide some education to people in regards to posing. My first question is, do you feel that is posing still is it a lost art right now in the current day of bodybuilding, or do you feel that yes, people are giving it more attention that it needs to have?
No, I think it's alive and well, especially in the class physique division. You know, when I first started, there was maybe two guys competing that I liked posing wise, and they weren't pros. They just were really really good at posing. Now, now I think if you watch any pro show, you'll find several good routines. Watching the Olympia last year, I loved Mike Summerfield's routine. It was beautiful. There were some other good routines I got to watch as well. Mike Urs is always as interesting. You know, his is more upbeat. You know, and I think you need a bit of both. I don't think everyone needs to pose like maybe me, where it's very serious. I think it's cool to have someone entertaining on stage as well. You know, I don't I don't think you should just straight up dance the entire time. But like if you want to throw in some cool stuff like Urs, I think Urs is kind of like a reincarnation posing wise to like uh, Melvin Anthony. You know, Melvin would start with like the really, really slow, beautiful music, and then he'll start doing some pop blocking and dancing. And I think Urs does that too, really, really well.
So you've already mentioned about some people that you like there in regards to posing. You mentioned that you know what? No, it is with the classic division. It really has brought it to light. What's the? I actually did. I did a posing award in the UK. People had to nominate the posing coach they wanted to recognise. There were 88 posing coaches nominees in the UK, which is mad. It's
That
mad.
is a lot, yeah.
88 posing coaches. I mean, UK is a very small island when you look at the number of competitors we have. On the posing coach perspective, and posing becoming more important than ever before, have you also seen that there are more posing coaches coming out of the woodwork that maybe not have the necessary skill set to actually be called themselves a posing coach? I'm just keen
Yeah,
to
I don't think it.
thoughts there.
I don't think all 88 of those people can, or probably up to par. You know, um, there's definitely some good posing coaches out there, and I do believe it's a good idea to try out a couple, just because people have different cues, people have different ways of teaching and doing things, and I think you can always learn from somebody in that regard. But yeah, I don't think all 88 know what they're doing. And the thing is, too, man, sometimes what you think might be a good idea is not. And a lot of these coaches don't kind of um, critique themselves against what the judges are putting up and rewarding. And that could be an issue as well. And so anytime I have a client, I tell them about something, I'm like, if I always suggest for them to go still pose in front of judges because at the end of the day, that's what matters. And if I have an opinion on something, but I see something else being rewarded, I'll be sure to let them know and give my opinion on that. Like, hey, I thought this looked great, but based on what I've been seeing on stage, this is what the judges want to see.
So I was literally going to ask you. My next question was, what is the one piece of posing advice you would give to those who are looking for the right posing coach? And I think one thing you just mentioned there is obviously making sure they are posing in front of judges. But what's your
Yeah,
advice for someone new in trying to find the right posing coach for them?
I think personally, honestly, I think you should look at the body of work, but also I really do think you should try a couple. Like, I don't think, I mean, one set, like you should, I think you should do more than one session, 100%. But with that being said, most posing coaches now I've been noticing they've dropped their prices quite a bit just because of, I guess, competition. They're usually around like $50 to $90. And with that being said, I think you can do a couple sessions going into your show and invest in yourself, and then kind of choose which one you like the most in terms of like who's teaching you the best. I think as well when you listen to these posing coaches talk, I think they should at times be referencing what they've seen on stage, um, and they should be willing to try multiple things with you. Like if a posing coach is getting everything right the first time and moving on, that's sometimes that's cool. A lot of times that's not because with different bodies, the muscle links, the structure, the way the bones are, all these things can make poses look different. Like I can tell someone to raise their chest and arch their back, and the way the musculature on their back looks is going to vary from person to person, just based on all these genetic components. And for a coach not to try multiple poses on a person, it kind of shows me that they're not as experienced as they think. And I see this a lot online. They'll critique people on the way they pose. Sometimes it is pretty black and white, but a lot of times I'm like, dude, you're I think you're saying a little bit too much without seeing the full picture because a picture is literally one fraction of a second, you know?
Yeah. No, that's really good advice there, mate. No, absolutely. I mean, I was going to lead on to here, then. Is there any UK posing coaches who you're a fan of who do some great work?
Yeah, my brain right now. I wish I would have wrote it down ahead of time. I forget his name. My favorite, the guy I talk to the most is I think it's like Golden Era posing or something.
Yes,
He
that's oh god, I forgot his name completely. I don't know how I forgot his name. Let me grab it up. I should know. I should know. I know who you're referring to.
he helped. I remember a couple years ago. I'm pretty sure he helped James Hollenshed with posing, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but he has his own like posing app, and he does a lot with posing all the time. I think Sammy is also out there posing with Sammy. Um, yeah, yeah. I think
For enough, posed by Sammy. He got voted by the public as the best posing coach in the UK from
awesome.
our page.
Really cool. Really cool. Um, I think his name Lofthouse. His last name is Lofthouse. Is it Lofthouse?
John Lofthouse. Yes, how can I possibly
Yeah.
forget? Yes, John
Yeah.
Lofthouse.
So those are the two guys I've seen and know the most from the UK. Yeah.
Nah, some good shouts there, especially from yourself. So, look, but we're going to come to wrap this up very soon. Look, we got to touch on the 2025 season. Um, there's a lot of people now. Chris Bumstead's retired. It's all up for grabs. A lot of people seem to be sleeping on yourself. They seem to be forgetting this is a two-time Arnold champion. This is a two-time second place runner-up at the Olympia. You know, um, what are your thoughts going into the 2025 season as you aim to target return to Olympia?
Taking it one step at a time. I set out last year to kind of put myself in a really good spot. One, I knew I needed to gain back the size I lost in the previous season. Um, and two, try to gain a little bit more while these other guys are competing. You know, all that time for me was spent, trying to grow, get better, and just put myself in a really good spot mentally, um, physically, and fix my environment as well. So, yeah, this year I'm excited. We're hopping into the Pittsburgh. This is the first time I'm doing that show, and I've checked out pictures of my physique, and I'm happy with the changes we've made. And I feel like it's gonna be a really good year. At the end of the day, you never truly know anything, but I definitely believe that it's gonna be a really good year.
I have to jump on what something you said. You say fix your environment. What do you mean by that?
I moved out to Houston. So yeah, I've
Okay.
been loving the environment out there. Train over at the Labrada gym every day. Hunter or Roy, and my buddy Tony, we all train there around 2:30 every day, and it's been fantastic.
Now, you said Pittsburgh. Are you looking past the Pittsburgh show in regards to any other shows we might see Terrence jump in, or we just focus on the one show at the moment?
Um, there's a possibility I'll do more. There's more than likely, but right now, one show at a time, one step at a time. I think with bodybuilding, it would be uh, an error or wrong of me to kind of be to just look forward to the Olympia or anything like that. There's a lot of good guys coming out to Pittsburgh, and that's the first step. So I guess you said a lot of guys are sleeping on me. I don't think they're sleeping. I think obviously I didn't compete the previous year, so they're just waiting to see what I do, and that's going to be the first showing. That's going to be the first step on the journey.
What was the reason for not doing the Arnolds? Because you're a two-time Arnold champion. I think a lot of people are hoping and maybe expecting to see you back on the Arnold stage, but obviously it's not to be. What was the thought process behind that?
I had an elbow injury where I couldn't really train anything upper body, so I had to get stem cell therapy,
Gotcha.
and that's a certain amount of time off, and then the recovery period takes a few months. So would not have been my best physique uh, at the Arnold. And if I could tell anybody anything, don't ever show up to a pro show with nothing less than your best. Because at the end of the day, if you lose that show, no one's gonna give a shit about what happened in your life or what obstacle you had to go through. That's only cool if you win. If you lose, you just look dumb and no one cares. So
I interviewed Flex Lewis the other day, and he told me the same thing. Said, "Look, not because he's gone through his stem cells treatment recently, and he was just talking about the fact that he never used injuries as an excuse because in the end, if you lose, no one's going to care about the reason. So if you're not 100% fit,
yeah,
why
yeah,
bother? Don't go do the show. Don't leave yourself open for that criticism."
100%. Yeah, I mean, obviously he knows. He knows better than anybody. Yeah.
Look, we just touched on the Arnolds very quickly there. There's a lot. Obviously, the big talk is the showdown between Wesley Vissers and Mike Summerfield. If I had to put you on the spot and ask you for a prediction, what would your prediction be?
I'm a man of stats, so I'm gonna give you obviously stats wise, it looks like um, Mike would win. But I mean, what the cool thing is we've seen is a lot of these shows are closer than you think. So Wesley, it's not impossible for Wesley to come back and beat Mike. I mean, I think he's beat Mike a couple times now, over the years. So uh, I would put it maybe like 80-20 in Mike's favor. It for me, it seems that with Wesley, he really has to come in 100%, and if it's not 100, he's not going to win. I think Mike has a little bit more wiggle room in that regard.
Yeah, no, it's funny as well because both those guys actually owned that pro card at the same year at the same show in 2018 in London. It was a classic physique for Wesley and it was bodybuilding for Mike. So I know they've competed before and how it's all come together for an unbelievable box office showdown at the Arnold's. Look, as we wrap this up, got a couple
I
of
will say
yeah.
before we move on, we also got another guy I've been really impressed by is Matt Grego. I just left Tampa, and the progress he's made, I never give people props unless I mean it. So this is my first props to Matt Grego since I met him maybe two years ago. I was like, man, this is really impressive with the pictures he's been posting. So uh, so Matt might give those guys a little trouble. I think backwise it may be tough from him, but front double, ab and thigh, side chest looks really good on him right now.
One of my first questions was going to be ask you like who are the ones we should keep an eye out for in 2025. We just literally mentioned one of the
Oh,
guys
I
right
can list
there.
some more. I got controversial opinions everywhere, man. I think personally, I see a lot of these guys coming up, and with me, I
Oh, you still there? Oh, there you are. Yeah,
yeah,
I can hear
yeah.
you now.
All right. Um, okay. Um, I think the top five is going to be probably changing quite a bit over the next, maybe not this upcoming year, but by the next year for sure. I see some crazy physiques. Niall out in the UK, One Punch Nash, incredible physique. We got Mateus down in Brazil, one of the best structures I've seen. He just needs a little bit more size. Diego, same thing, crazy. Guy from Colombia living in Brazil. Obviously, Hosema, 22 years old,
Yeah,
one of the craziest back doubles in classic right now. Carlos, another Brazilian guy. Carlos is switching from men's physique. I think he might be doing Pittsburgh with me, and I personally, out of anyone I'm seeing right now, he may be the most complete. Yeah, I haven't seen any full-on posing pictures, but in terms of size and symmetry, he may be one of the best competing. He's gonna have to prove it on stage, but from what I'm seeing in pictures, and it's incredible. Um, I think those. One other guy I'm a really big fan of. He's let me say an American guy, at least one American guy. Uh, Austin
yeah, yeah.
Epsy. He looks fantastic as well. So I think those are some of the guys I'm really looking forward to seeing over the next 2-3 years.
What do you like so much about Niall Darwin? Obviously, the UK boy. He came 11th in his first Olympia. What do you think is so special about him?
I think structurally, man, the waist is probably the biggest thing. I look at him from top to bottom. He doesn't seem to have much of any weaknesses. Maybe his back to a small degree, but usually what I've seen with guys with his waist as small as his, either like they have a really narrow clavicles or their legs are small, and I don't see or their lats insert too high to make their back really weak, and I don't see any of those problems with his physique. So I think I guess whatever the judges tell him to fix, once he fixes that, he'll move up very very quickly. And I mean we've seen it time again. I went from ninth to second. Wesley went from eighth to beating the second place guy at the Arnold. I think Mike was eighth 2023. It's not hard for a guy to pop up, in the bottom of the top 10 to the even Josema, first Olympia. It's real easy for a guy to pop up out of nowhere and place in that top five.
Definitely. Is there any other UK guys that you're looking forward to seeing back on stage in 2025 within the classic physique side?
My favorite guy is Michael. Michael DeBoer. I guess he doesn't live in the UK
I
anymore,
know, yeah,
but
either in Kuwait really or Dubai.
yeah, he's over. He moved. But honestly, man, he's a really good person overall, man. Like he's one of the nicest guys in the sport, most helpful guys. I see he was training with Urs a couple of days ago. He invited me out to train with him. He's always helpful, man. And in terms of conditioning, like there's no one better. Who's bringing a better like conditioning package to the stage than him. So,
well, look, let's wrap this up. I'm gonna put this on you. Now you can only use present day active bodybuilders. Can be classic physique, bodybuilding, whatever you want. Who would be on your Mount Rushmore in the best posers, but can only be present
okay.
day bodybuilders? You've already given
Oh,
me the ones of your inspiration, so I know who'll be on there. But let's just go for the present day bodybuilders.
present day, I hate
So you got
that.
four. You got four people.
So yeah, I'll be present day. That's not okay. How many people are even on Mount Rushmore? 5 people?
You got four. You got
No,
four.
4? Okay, I should know this as an American. Anyway, um, I definitely think myself would be on there somewhere. Um, it's tough. Who've made? I think that makes it tough because I could think of some guys in the early 2000s that would want on there like Cedric, but obviously, RIP to him, he's not competing. I would say Samson. Samson is the best open bodybuilder posing guy. Best poser in open bodybuilding. So definitely Samson. And he's been a good poser for years now. This is tough. In terms of just general entertainment, just fun, I could put maybe hers. I would say Antoine Valent. He's done some really cool guest posings, but in terms of like on stage during a show, probably hers. Hers is probably one of the most entertaining. So one more. I'm gonna pick a lady in this one, and I would say Rachel Daniels. I would put her in that mix for sure. One of the best ever. We did a routine together years ago. She actually, you know what? Like I said Mike's routine was the best one at the Olympia I saw, and I'm fairly sure that she helped him with that routine, if I'm not mistaken. She's also helped Andrea Shaw, the women's bodybuilder, Miss Olympia, with her routine. So I would 100% put her on there. And
okay,
I think that's it. Yeah.
That's it. That's your 4. Okay, perfect. Look, final question because literally just one just came into my head. Can you give me one shock prediction for bodybuilding in 2025? What one shock result do you think if you had to put money on at the bookies at the better shop? What one shock prediction would you make for 2025 season? Could involve anybody, any class.
Oh, well, this is tough. Let me think. It's a tough one. Something a hot take. I don't know. In bodybuilding, I can't think of anything that would be a hot take. I think in classic, uh, man, I don't know.
Put your spot right there, now, mate. That's it. Your mind just froze.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think because anything I say is gonna be pretty, not a hot take. There's some wild because 2025 is everything's up for grabs for every division. There's nothing really set in stone at this point. A lot of champions left. No one's a surefire anything. In any division at the moment. So I don't. That's what I mean. Like I can't think of anything that would be controversial to say. I could say like this person's not gonna win, that person's not gonna win the Olympia again, but everyone's only won 1 or 2 at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know. What would your hot take be? And then that gives me
time to think about it. My hot take. Oh, I know obviously right now, there's a lot of talk about is Big Ramy coming back in 2025. That was circulating yesterday. I think that would be a big shock if Big Ramy made a comeback at the Olympia. That would definitely bring a lot of eyeballs into it. So though that's still circulating right now, and it's not fully confirmed, I would say what would be a huge shock and something that nobody thought that it would be happening again would be Big Ramy to return at the Olympia, which would make it, what box office that would be. Ramy, Derek, Samson, Brandon Curry will still be there. Derek, you got 5 Olympic champions right there. I don't know when was the last time maybe you had 5 bodybuilding Olympic champions all at one stage.
It is pretty wild. We're going back to like the early '80s when they were changing it quite a bit. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's a cool time to be, man. Instead of having like a 6, 7, 8 year reigning champ, it's cool to have like, it's up for anybody. I think. Go ahead.
The other one I was going to say as well, I don't know if you know this, but last year, 2024, was a record year for the number of UK pros to qualify for Olympia. So we had 7 UK competitors over there. At the moment, we have 8 competitors already qualified. And I'm already going out to say that the UK will have 16 competitors at the Olympia in 2025, which is massive. Given the fact that it wasn't that long ago where we only have 2 or 3 people, and now we're already at a record of 8, with still another 9 months to go. So I'm going to go in and say 16 UK IFBB pros at the Olympia.
The US got to do better. We're starting to drop. We're starting to drop down a bit. Okay. No, that's impressive. Especially, yeah. I've been noticing. I was talking with Fabricio, that Ramon and Hoffa's old trainer. That I've noticed the U.S. has lost a lot of pride as like a country, and I see all these other countries. They're really proud of when they have an athlete that makes it. You like you know the stats for the UK athletes. They know the Brazilian athlete stats, and like every other country has it. Except the U.S. for some reason at this point.
Are you going to give me one shock for your side then, or I'll give you some time to have a little think?
Oh, for my controversial takes.
Doesn't even controversial.
I think Nick can be top 3 again, 100%. I know people giving a lot of shit. The most shit I've ever seen online over the past like 3-4 months. But no, I definitely think I'm a big Nate Walker fan. I know it's wild with how different our physiques are, but I'm a big fan of his mindset and his work ethic. I think that's top notch, and to me personally, it seems like a lot of that stuff was out of his control, the hamstring stuff, and obviously the way things went with his coach. But yeah, that's probably my biggest take there. Is I definitely think he could get back up to that spot. For me, I definitely think I could beat everyone on that list coming this Olympia. It's been done before. It can be done again. Trying to think of anything else interesting.
Nah, that's good. No, that's good one, Nick. Yeah. That's a good one, Nick. And look, for me, I think bodybuilding needs more personalities, and Nick Walker 100% brings personality. I know he's people either they love him or hate him, which shows in the comments. It's pretty brutal, but he clearly has the thick, dense skin where that doesn't phase him. And I think.
What do you mean by personality? When you say personality, do you mean like a person that talks like junk? Because I feel like everyone has personality. Like
I think. All nice. Well, if I look at let's look at the press conference numbers. When you had the people like Phil Heath and Kai Green, they brought that personality to the press conference. Where it could be more the attitude.
I think it's what you mean. More instead of like personality, like more aggressive. Not like aggressive is kind of too high of a word, but like not afraid to say what they believe and to be confident. I think that's the big thing. What you're trying to say. When I see a lot of these press conferences, I don't see confidence. Everyone's trying to be nice, Like they're like, oh, anything can happen. All these guys are champs. That's the way they speak. And that, like, say for instance, Derek has a very strong personality, but it's not a type of personality to say too much. You know what I mean? Whereas Nick also has a strong personality, but he's gonna tell you what he thinks, and it's gonna be very blunt.
That's precisely what it is. I mean, look, you got to look at Samson in 2024 of Olympia. The guy took his top off. Everybody thought he'd lost it. And who's laughing now?
Yo, honestly, that's one thing I do. With me being in the sport as long as I have, people gave him shit for that. I was like, bro, that's what bodybuilding. They used to do that every press conference. I mean, there's pictures of Ronnie and Kevin and all these guys doing that every year, and somehow people, like, I think a lot of times now people view like confidence and like belief as like arrogance, and I'm like, it's not that. Like, you can believe in yourself. It's nothing wrong with that, but like everyone now wants people to be like, anyone can win, even after. And I get arrogance can be an issue, but I think that's a difference between confidence and arrogance, where like confidence is belief in yourself, like through like logic and like past experiences. So like Samson had won some big shows by that point. He had done some pretty good things. So at that point, take your shirt off. Say you can become Miss Olympia, but like if you're like this kid that just won his pro card and saying he's gonna win Olympia, the first year he's there, that's too much. That's arrogance. But if you've done some stuff in the sport and you believe you can do something more, then that's confidence.
I remember, I don't know if it was the 2022 Olympia or 2023, but you were on stage at the press conference. It was you, Chris Bumstead, and I think Breon was there. And that was when Breon took his shirt off, put his shirt on Chris, did the rear bicep.
Yeah, they gave him a lot of shit for that too. I just think people don't know the history of the sport. A lot of people are just hopping in and never watching any Olympias. But the way they went about that press conference was obviously, I mean, you've been there, is way different than any other press conference we had ever done. Usually we all sit down at a table or something. That one, we came in blind. So, all respect to Breon. We came into that press conference blind, and backstage they're like, treat this like a wrestling event. If you want to take your shirt off, take your shirt off. They actually told us to do that. So I was like, well, yeah, I don't know.
That's crazy. They actually told you to if you want to take your top off, take it off. But then I guess for them, it's all about eyeballs. It's all about getting as many eyeballs on there, and people love characters. You think about wrestling, WWE. The reason why people are invested is they get invested into the character, into the storytelling, into the narrative. I think that's what people love is the stories. So
my biggest thing is like I want to do more of that, but like I actually like the guys I compete with, and I feel like there's a lot of sensitive people out there, and then I don't want any issues with my peers, because people can be really sensitive in bodybuilding,
Yeah, I think we've seen that as well. Well, look, Terrence, I really appreciate it. I've taken way more time than I thought I was going to, so I do apologize. But Terrence, I really look, man, I really appreciate it. Look, one thing I can't wait for Pittsburgh. I can't wait for the Pittsburgh show. I know it's a Manion show, and I know they want the show now to really be as big as the Arnolds. They've got the expo, the prize money's going up. Fantastic. It's going to be a good thing when the money's going up for bodybuilders. More money is being reinvested back into the prize money. Only could be a good thing. So, Terrence, I want to wish you the best of luck for the year. My fingers are crossed that we see you back at Olympia. I can't wait to see your routine at Pittsburgh. Really appreciate it, mate. And best of luck for 2025.
Appreciate you, man. You have a good day. Thank you.
Take care. All right.